big turning point probably for me started, but it wasn't the turning point, but when I got in a car accident when I was 18. I had just graduated from high school, and I was in that mode of working hard and playing really hard, but it was life-changing for me because I ran into a tree, found myself waking up in the passenger side in a field and the car was still driving. Luckily, I survived, and I think I had my angels with me, and that was the first time I really felt that I had a purpose, because I knew I shouldn't have survived that accident. I mean, I hit the tree my whole entire driver's side of my car. Probably if I had my seatbelt on, it would have been a different story. But since I didn't, I was popped into the passenger side, interestingly enough. And, you know, I just knew that there was a reason why I was still here. And so that was my first shift. But as I wrote in the story, the only thing that it did do was I did stop driving after I was drinking. So I never did that again. But I continued drinking. Baby steps, right?
Right.
So, yeah. And then, you know, for, I don't know, it was my late 20s really is when I stopped for good. But it was really just recognizing that I knew that I was going to kill myself someday. I knew that I would be the hand that, you know, took my life at an early age because of what I was doing. And I started saying, well, that's just not okay. And that's what got me to stop. I stopped immediately. But at the time, it was very frustrating to me because there wasn't a lot of, at least I couldn't find a lot of options for help. I didn't personally connect with AA. I think that they're great they do so well for so many people. It's a very needed source out there, but for me, it just wasn't, you know, everybody has their different piece that they connect with, and I didn't connect with it. So I did do it on my own, which helped me realize deeper things within myself, because it's obviously not that easy to do on your own. But that also encouraged me to help other people. And that's when I decided, when I started coaching and working with clients, that I thought it was really important for me to offer other people that were dealing with similar circumstances. You know, addiction has so many different faces. So it's not just alcohol and drugs, or it could be shopping, it could be addicted to emotions, you name it. So I had decided to put on a telesummit of my own on freedom from addictive behaviors and giving everyone different options so that they could connect with whatever best worked for them to work through, to get the help that they needed. And that is when I really connected deeper with, I interviewed a hand analyst during that telesummit, and I had her read my hands, and I just I had never worked with anything or anyone that connected so deeply with what my soul had been telling me my whole life. It was just complete clarity. And it was just a very brief, I just had her do a very brief reading for me. And that really changed things for me. I mean, there's many other parts to my story, Patricia. I don't know where else we would like to go. My mother died in the middle of, probably a couple of years after I quit drinking. And for me, when I quit drinking, like I said, it was about the physicality of my body. It wasn't about emotions. I hadn't made it to the point of figuring out or shifting that energy of why I was needing the alcohol. So caring for my body allowed me to quit, but I hadn't shaken the addiction at that point because the emotions were still there that wanted me to continue to be in the void. So when my mother died a few years later, it really obviously shook me to the core. We were best friends, and she was my rock, and she went through a long illness. And at that point, it was beyond her dying. My family really just, you know how sometimes when people die, things just shift for everything. Well, this is the case for this. My whole family basically split up at that point. So it was fairly devastating for me to lose my mother and then also lose people that were still living in my life. And so that really was the even deeper, harder turnaround for me, because that made me go into the emotional level of why I was needing it to be in the void. And that was an incredible journey for me and really brought me to going through that allowed me to be who I am today. It allows me to have that empathetic nature working with my clients. The situation, specifically with my mother passing, I miss her dearly, but in a sense, it has been a blessing to me because it was such a gift, being brought through what I was brought through. I would have never, the pain that I had to live through from that brought me to where I am